The desperate signal. The colony ship Peaceful Dawn shuddered as another plasma blast struck its weakening shields. Captain Zera 9 gripped her command chair as the lights flickered throughout the bridge. Around her, the crew of tall, slender Zephyrians worked frantically at their stations, their normally calm blue skin now pale with fear. Shield integrity down to 37%, reported her tactical officer, his voice trembling despite his training. At this rate, we have maybe 2 hours before complete failure. Zera 9 looked at the main display showing the nightmare surrounding them. 200 mechanical raider ships had appeared from nowhere, their dark hulls bristling with weapons. They moved in perfect coordination, like a swarm of metal predators circling wounded prey. The Peaceful Dawn carried 50,000 Zephyrian colonists, families seeking new homes on the outer rim planets. They were scientists, artists, teachers, and children. None of them were soldiers. Communications, send another distress signal on all frequencies, Zara 9 ordered. Full spectrum broadcast. Someone has to hear us. The communications officer, a young female named Tess 7, looked up with desperate hope. Captain, I'm detecting multiple civilizations within range. The Corteni Empire has ships 3 days away, and there's a trading post belonging to the Nexus Federation about 4 days out. 4 days, Elder Keth spoke from behind the captain's chair. The ancient Zephyrian's voice carried the weight of centuries. Our people will not survive 4 days against these machines. Another blast rocked the ship, and emergency lights bathed the bridge in red. Zara 9 made a decision that would change everything. Test 7, expand the broadcast range. Send our SOS to every system within a week's travel. Include everything we know about the attackers in our cargo manifest. If we don't survive, maybe someone can warn others about these raiders. As the distress signal spread across space, it reached dozens of listening posts and patrol ships. Most belonged to species that calculated the risk and decided they couldn't help. The raiders were too numerous, too well armed. It would be suicide to intervene. But one signal reached a different kind of listener. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the Horizon Walker, a human deep space patrol vessel, conducting routine surveys in the outer rim. The ship was small by human standards, carrying only 200 crew members, but it represented humanity's growing presence in the galaxy. Earth had joined the galactic community just 5 years ago, and humans were still proving themselves to older civilizations. Captain, we're receiving a distress call, reported Lieutenant Jones from the communication station. It's coming from the Kepler 442 system, about 18 hours away at maximum burn. What's the situation? Santos asked, moving to review the data. 50,000 civilians under attack by a large raider fleet. The ship is called Peaceful Dawn. Registry shows it belongs to the Zephyrian Republic. They're requesting immediate assistance from any nearby vessels. Santos studied the information carefully. She had never encountered Zephyrians before, but the data showed they were a peaceful species known for their scientific achievements. 50,000 innocent people were about to die, and the Horizon Walker was the only ship close enough to help. Ma'am, Jones continued, I should mention that our tactical analysis indicates approximately 200 hostile vessels. Our ship wouldn't stand much chance against those numbers. Santos nodded grimly. A single human patrol ship against 200 raiders was hopeless. But she had other options. Open a secure channel to Earth Command. Priority Alpha. Within minutes, Admiral Chenwei appeared on the main screen. The veteran officer's scared face showed immediate concern as Santos explained the situation. 200 ships, Chen asked. That's a significant raider force. What's the tactical assessment? Impossible odds for a single ship, sir. But 50,000 civilians are going to die if no one helps them. These Zephyrians appear to be completely non-military. They have no weapons, no combat training. They're sitting ducks. Chen was quiet for a moment, considering the implications. Earth's military doctrine was clear about protecting innocent life, but this would be humanity's first major intervention in galactic affairs. The decision could affect humanity's relationship with dozens of other species. Captain Santos, Chen said finally, "Are you certain these civilians are truly helpless?" "Yes, sir. Their SOS includes full technical specifications. Their ship is a colony transport with minimal shields and no offensive capabilities. The raiders are using military-grade weapons and coordinated attack patterns. And you're requesting Protocol 7 authorization." Santos took a deep breath. Protocol 7 was humanity's total response authorization, used when human-protected civilians faced overwhelming threats. It meant mobilizing every available military asset in the region, regardless of cost or risk. "Yes, sir. These people sent an SOS to anyone who would listen. By responding to their call, we've accepted responsibility for their protection. That makes them human-protected civilians under Section 4 of the Military Response Guidelines." Admiral Chen nodded slowly. "Authorization granted. Protocol 7 is now active. Maintain contact with the civilian vessel and provide what assistance you can until the fleet arrives." As the transmission ended, Santos turned to her crew. "All hands, prepare for emergency burn to Kepler 442. We have civilians to protect." Across human space, the Protocol 7 activation triggered automatic responses at dozens of military installations. Ships that had been on routine patrols suddenly changed course. Space stations began launching their defensive fleets. The Mars shipyards released 3 entire battle groups that had been conducting training exercises. Admiral Chen stood in Earth's primary military command center, watching as the response unfolded on massive tactical displays. Within 6 hours, 847 human warships would converge on the Kepler 442 system. It was the largest military deployment in human history. "Sir," his aide asked quietly, "are you certain about this response level? We're mobilizing nearly a third of our total fleet for aliens we've never even met." Chen looked at the young officer seriously. "Lieutenant, when someone sends an SOS, you don't calculate the political implications. You don't worry about the cost. You save lives. That's what being human means." Meanwhile, aboard the Peaceful Dawn, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. The raider ships had tightened their formation, and energy beams were systematically weakening the colony ship's defenses. Families huddled together in emergency shelters while the ship's medical staff prepared for the worst. Elder Keth found Captain Zara 9 in her private quarters, staring out at the stars through a small porthole. "The children are asking when rescue will come," he said softly. "I don't know what to tell them," Zara 9 replied. "We've received acknowledgments from several military forces, but they're all days away. The closest response came from something called a human patrol ship, but they haven't provided an estimated arrival time." "Humans," Keth mused. "I've heard that name before. Aren't they the new species that joined the galactic community recently? From a single world called Earth?" "Yes, a young civilization. They've only had faster-than-light travel for a few decades. I doubt they have much of a military presence in this region." Another explosion shook the ship, stronger than before. The raiders were intensifying their attack, apparently growing impatient with the prolonged siege. Warning lights flashed as the shield generators began overheating. "Captain," Tess 7's voice came over the intercom. "We're receiving a transmission from the human vessel. They say they're 18 hours out and request permission to coordinate our defense." Zara 9 hurried back to the bridge. A single human ship wouldn't make much difference against 200 raiders, but any help was better than none. "Put them through." Captain Santos appeared on the screen, her determined expression providing an unexpected sense of comfort. "Captain Zara 9, this is Captain Santos of the human vessel Horizon Walker. We've received your distress call and are en route to assist." "Captain Santos, I appreciate your response, but I must warn you that you're facing overwhelming odds. Perhaps you should coordinate with other military forces in the region, rather than approaching alone." Santos smiled grimly. "Ma'am, we don't abandon civilians in distress. My ship will arrive in 17 hours, But I want you to know that we're not coming alone. Significant additional forces are being deployed to ensure your safety. Additional forces? Zara 9 asked hopefully. How many ships? Enough, Santos replied simply. In the meantime, I need you to maintain your current defensive posture and prepare detailed casualty reports. We're going to need medical and engineering assessments when we arrive. As the transmission ended, Zara 9 felt a strange sense of hope. There was something in the human captain's voice, a certainty that spoke of capabilities beyond what a single patrol ship could provide. But she couldn't imagine what kind of additional forces a young civilization could deploy in such a remote region. Across the galaxy, military observers were beginning to detect unusual hyperspace signatures. Dozens of ships were moving toward the Kepler 442 system with unprecedented coordination. The energy readings suggested vessels much larger than typical patrol craft, but the exact numbers remained unclear. On Earth, Admiral Chen was reviewing the final deployment orders. The human fleet would arrive in 3 waves. Advanced scouts to assess the tactical situation, main battle groups to engage the raiders, and humanitarian vessels to assist with civilian evacuation if necessary. Admiral, his tactical coordinator reported, all fleet elements are reporting green status. Estimated arrival time is 14 hours, 37 minutes. Chen nodded. Send a message to Captain Santos. Tell her the cavalry is coming. Aboard the Peaceful Dawn, Elder Keth gathered the colony's leaders for what might be their final council meeting. The ship's shields were down to 15%, and the raiders were positioning for what appeared to be a final assault. The human ship is still hours away, Zara 9 reported to the assembled Zephyrians. Even with their promised additional forces, I don't see how they can break through such overwhelming numbers. Perhaps, said Elder Keth thoughtfully, we should prepare for the possibility that we may not understand these humans as well as we think. After all, what kind of species responds to a stranger's distress call by mobilizing significant military forces? As if in answer to his question, space around the Kepler 442 system began to ripple with incoming hyperspace signatures. Something massive was approaching, and the raiders were about to discover that they had made a terrible mistake in threatening human-protected civilians. When Deathworlders answer, the first sign that something unprecedented was happening came from the Peaceful Dawn's long-range sensors. Tess 7 stared at her display in disbelief as massive hyperspace signatures began appearing on the edge of the system. Captain, she called out, her voice filled with awe. I'm detecting incoming vessels. Multiple contacts, very large energy signatures. Captain Zara 9 moved to the sensor station, her blue skin paling as she saw the readings. How many ships? I'm still counting, but it's over 200 contacts. No, wait, over 400. The signatures are still increasing. Elder Keth joined them at the console, his ancient eyes widening as he processed the information. Who could deploy such a massive fleet to this remote system? Before anyone could answer, space around the Kepler 442 system erupted in brilliant flashes of light. Ship after ship emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with fresh construction and advanced technology. The vessels ranged from sleek destroyers to massive dreadnoughts, each one bristling with weapons and defensive systems. Commander Vex, leader of the Raider fleet, watched his tactical display with growing horror as the human fleet materialized. His mechanical scouts had detected the approaching ships hours ago, but he had assumed it was a small patrol force. The reality was far more terrifying. How many ships? He demanded of his tactical officer. 847 confirmed contacts, sir. Multiple ship classes, all showing advanced weapon systems and shielding. The largest vessels are reading as Dreadnought class, approximately 3 kilometers in length. Vex's mechanical jaw clicked nervously. His Raider fleet had been designed to prey on defenseless merchant vessels and isolated colonies. They were not equipped to face a military force of this magnitude. Send a message to the lead vessel, he ordered. We're willing to negotiate. Aboard the human flagship Indomitable, Admiral Chen Wei stood on the bridge reviewing tactical displays that showed the complete disposition of both fleets. The raiders had arranged themselves in a loose blockade around the peaceful dawn, but their formation was clearly defensive, designed to prevent escape rather than engage military targets. Admiral, his communications officer reported, "We're receiving a transmission from the raider commander. He's requesting negotiations." Chen studied the enemy positions. 200 raider ships against 847 human vessels. The mathematical outcome was inevitable, but his primary concern was the safety of the 50,000 civilians. "Patch me through to the colony ship first," Chen ordered. "I want to speak with their captain." Captain 09 nearly fell from her chair when the transmission came through. The human admiral appeared on her screen, his scared face showing the kind of confidence that came from overwhelming superiority. Captain Santos, who had been coordinating rescue operations, found herself in conversation with Captain 09 about the cultural differences between their species. "We sent out a distress call, hoping someone might risk a few ships to help us," 09 explained. "We never imagined anyone would mobilize an entire fleet." "From our perspective," Santos replied, 50,000 innocent people were in danger. The size of our response was determined by the size of the threat, not by any political calculations. "But the cost," 09 protested. "Mobilizing so many ships, the fuel expenditure, the risk to your own people." Santos looked puzzled. "Ma'am, when someone sends an SOS, you don't calculate the cost. You save lives. That's what civilized people do." As the rescue operations continued, more details about human society emerged. The Zephyrians learned that Earth's history was filled with conflicts, but also with stories of individuals who risked everything to protect strangers. The human concept of "leave no one behind" wasn't military doctrine, it was cultural instinct. Elder Keth found himself in a lengthy discussion with Admiral Chen about the philosophical implications of their rescue. "Your people responded to our distress call without knowing anything about us," Keth observed. "You risk your lives for complete strangers." "Elder Keth," Chen replied, "we believe that civilized species have an obligation to protect innocent life, regardless of the personal cost. That's what separates us from the raiders and pirates." "But surely there must be limits," Keth pressed. "What if helping us had meant the destruction of your own fleet?" Chen considered this carefully. "Then we would have sent more ships. Humanity has learned that the universe is a dangerous place, but we've also learned that cooperation and mutual protection make us all stronger." The conversation was interrupted by a communication from the human engineering teams. They had completed their assessment of the raider fleet and made disturbing discoveries. "Admiral," the chief engineer reported, "these raiders aren't just pirates. They're using technology that suggests coordination with larger criminal organizations. We found evidence of planned attacks on at least 12 other civilian targets." Chen's expression hardened. "Prepare a complete intelligence report. We need to share this information with other galactic civilizations." As the human fleet prepared to escort the peaceful dawn to its destination, the Zephyrian colonists found themselves forever changed by their encounter with humanity. They had expected to die in the cold of space, but instead they had been saved by a species that treated the protection of innocent life as a sacred duty. The news of the rescue spread quickly through galactic communication networks. Other civilizations learned that the young human species possessed not only significant military capabilities, but also an instinctive drive to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Captain 09 stood on her bridge, watching the human fleet maintain protective formation around her ship. "Test 7, prepare a message to the Zephyrian Republic. Tell them we're requesting formal diplomatic contact with Earth." "What should I say about the humans?" Test 7 asked. 09 thought for a moment. "Tell them we've encountered a species that mobilizes 800 ships to save 50,000 strangers. Tell them we need to understand what kind of people would do such a thing." Elder Keth overheard the conversation and added his own thoughts. "Tell them we've met the galaxy's newest protectors, and tell them that anyone who threatens innocent life now has to answer to the humans. As the combined fleet traveled towards Zephyrian space, Admiral Chen was already planning the next phase of human expansion into the galaxy. The rescue of the Peaceful Dawn had demonstrated humanity's capabilities, but more importantly, it had established their principles. "Admiral," his aide asked, "what happens when word of this rescue spreads? Other species will know that humans will respond to distress calls." Chen smiled grimly. "Then they'll know that the galaxy just became a much safer place for innocent people and a much more dangerous place for those who prey on them." The human fleet had answered an SOS from complete strangers, mobilized nearly 1,000 ships, and eliminated a major threat to civilian shipping. But for humanity, it had been just another day of doing what was right. The galaxy was about to learn that when Deathworlders decide to protect you, they don't send a ship. They send everything they have. "Captain Zara 9, this is Admiral Chen Wei of the Human Defense Fleet. We've received your distress call and are here to ensure your safety." "Admiral," Zara 9 stammered, "we never expected such a massive response. How did you mobilize so many ships so quickly?" "Ma'am, when innocent civilians are threatened, humanity responds with everything we have. I need you to maintain your current position while we eliminate the hostile threat." "Eliminate?" Zara 9 asked. "Perhaps negotiations would be preferable. Many lives could be saved if we can reach a peaceful resolution." Chen's expression hardened. "Captain, those raiders have been holding 50,000 civilians hostage for over 30 hours. They've had multiple opportunities to withdraw. The time for negotiations has passed." As the transmission ended, Shen turned to his tactical coordinator. "All fleet elements, assume attack formation. Begin systematic engagement of hostile vessels." The human fleet moved with mechanical precision that stunned observers throughout the system. 847 ships arranged themselves in a complex three-dimensional formation that surrounded the raider fleet completely. Every possible escape route was blocked by overlapping fields of fire. Commander Vex watched in terror as the human vessels maneuvered around his forces. "Signal general retreat," he ordered desperately. "All ships, break formation and scatter." But it was too late. The human fleet had anticipated this response and positioned their fastest ships to intercept any fleeing raiders. As the first raider vessels began to move, human destroyers launched coordinated missile strikes with devastating precision. "Incoming missiles," Vex's tactical officer reported. 237 warheads, all targeting our engine systems. The Raiders' point defense systems activated frantically, but they were designed to counter small fighter attacks, not massive coordinated strikes from military vessels. Within minutes, half of the Raider fleet found their engines disabled, leaving them helpless in space. Aboard the Peaceful Dawn, the Zephyrian colonists watched in amazement as the battle unfolded. The human ships moved like a single organism, each vessel supporting the others in a display of tactical coordination that bordered on the supernatural. "How are they doing this?" whispered Tess 7, staring at the tactical display. "It's like they've fought together for decades." Elder Keth observed the battle with the wisdom of his centuries. "These humans fight like creatures who have evolved for war. Every movement is calculated, every strike precisely placed. They're not just military trained, they're naturally adapted for combat." The systematic destruction of the Raider fleet took exactly 47 minutes. The human vessels used overwhelming firepower to eliminate threats while carefully avoiding collateral damage. When Raider ships attempted to surrender, they were disabled and boarded by human marines rather than destroyed. Admiral Chen opened a channel to the Peaceful Dawn as the last Raider vessel powered down its weapons. "Captain Zara 9, the hostile threat has been eliminated. We're deploying medical ships and engineers to assist with any damage to your vessel." "Admiral," Zara 9 replied, still trying to process what she had witnessed. "That was extraordinary. I've never seen such military precision. How did you coordinate so many ships so effectively?" "Captain, humanity has been fighting wars for our entire existence. We've learned to work together when lives are at stake. As human medical and engineering teams boarded the Peaceful Dawn, the Zephyrian colonists got their first close look at the species that had saved them. The humans were shorter and more compact than Zephyrians, but they moved with a fluid grace that spoke of natural physical coordination. Dr. Sarah Kim, the chief medical officer from the Indomitable, examined injured Zephyrians with gentle expertise. "Your physiology is fascinating," she told Elder Keth. "Your people seem to have evolved in a very stable environment. Low gravity, minimal predators, abundant resources." "Yes," Keth replied, studying the human doctor with equal curiosity. "Our homeworld is quite peaceful, but you humans seem to have come from a very different environment." Dr. Kim smiled grimly. "Earth is what we call a death world. High gravity, dangerous weather, competing with thousands of predator species. Evolution made us tough because anything weak didn't survive long enough to reproduce." This revelation spread quickly through the Zephyrian colony. The humans who had saved them came from a world so dangerous that it had forged them into natural warriors. Their overwhelming military response hadn't been unusual for them. It had been instinctive.